Welcome back to the Playdate with Freshly Picked. I am Fifi Latteier, and I have my wonderful sister-in-law, Kenzie Hosea, here with us today.
Hello.
Just to introduce her a little bit, as I mentioned, she's my sister-in-law, married to my brother. And Kenz, why don't you tell us a little bit, like how long you've been married, how many kids you guys have, how much money is in your savings. I'm just kidding.
$0. Yeah, thanks for having me on. My name's Mackenzie. I've known Fifi since she was about 12 years old. Nate and I met when we were 9th graders and I guess started dating, if you can even call it that. But we dated all through high school. So I've been around the family forever, it seems like. And then once we dated all through high school, and then once we graduated high school, my husband left on a mission, and I played tennis up at Utah State and waited for him while he was serving. And then when he came home, we were married about a year later. And we've been married 10 years now. And then we have 4 kids, a 7-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 1-year-old, and then our heavenly angel baby. But yeah, that's us.
Oh my gosh. Okay. First of all, I want to go straight into the kids really fast. What are you getting them for Easter?
Oh my gosh. I don't even know. I am the worst at like the holiday stuff. I feel like I wait till the last second to do everything, but I mean, I'll probably hit up Five Below for some cheap Easter stuff. They will break everything in 2 seconds, so it's like not even worth getting them anything that great. So we'll see. I kind of want to get them something like more meaningful to focus on like Christ and that part of Easter. But as far as like holiday Easter bunny stuff, it will just be the cheapest stuff I can find.
Yeah. No, I totally get it. I'm very simple this year. Swimsuit, goggles.
That's perfect.
And I snagged some $16 Crocs.
I love it.
That's what we're sticking with this year.
That's great.
I definitely have set the bar too high.
In the past.
In the past.
We need to lower our standards here.
I'm just like hoping they forget a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's got 5 kids. That's a lot. That's a lot to get.
I've set the bar high for like 1, then 2 kids. Yeah. The bar was still pretty high. Okay, whatever. Yeah. Now the bar is freaking low. It's almost the ground.
Yeah. Man.
They're lucky to get peeps. Just kidding.
Oh my God.
I hate peeps.
Peeps are the worst.
Okay, but we love all you peep lovers, even if you have
we're not judging
interesting tastes. You'll never believe what just happened. Okay, never mind. I got it. I thought I just erased every single question that I just had for you. Okay, so I want to go into, so there's a few reasons why I wanted you to come on, because I think that there's a lot of power that comes from shared experiences or similar stories. And I think that yours is one of power, and yours is also one of, there is sorrow and there's sadness, but there's also a lot of growth. And I think that a lot of our listeners would really benefit from hearing from you. So going off of our first one, our sweet first buddy best born, I'm not saying, you're a mother with an autistic child. So I wanted to bring you on and talk about that a little, because there's a lot of moms out there that are dealing with the same thing, or maybe they have similar experiences. Maybe their child is struggling with something different. Maybe they're not autistic, but they have another thing that is maybe neurodivergent, something that fits within that realm. And so I want you to kind of talk about that and like just share kind of the start of like how you got that diagnosis and what it felt like for you guys.
Yeah. So our oldest is the boy with autism. And I guess the first signs that we saw was just his speech. He was kind of regressing in speech when he was little. And that was probably like the major sign that we saw. There were other little things. He was pretty repetitive. He liked lining things up in a certain way. He liked throwing things up and having them crash on his head. And he liked, slamming like balls into walls and stuff just to like hear the sound, or he'd like throw that up and have it hit him in the head. And he just thought it was the funniest thing. And he'd spend forever doing it. And so we had kind of been tracking with his pediatrician, just some of the things we were seeing. And he was really kind of hard because he was on the verge of like, we don't know really what these are pointing to. Pediatrician said like some things point directly to autism, and then some things point directly away from it. And so it was like that for a little bit. And then eventually we got to the point where he just said, have him tested and let's just see. Like, let's just see what they think and we'll go from there, because he couldn't really give an answer one way or the other. So we decided to move forward with having him tested. And I think in the back of my mind, like just like my mom instinct, I just kind of knew that he was. And so I feel like that kind of prepared me a little bit. But I think he was 2.5 when he got an official diagnosis. And it was really hard to take in at first. I don't know. We worked at the same place at the time, so I don't know if you were at work that day that we got the call, but I kind of just like broke down at the office. And it was just like hard to hear. And I feel like mostly because there's just a lot of unknowns that came with it. And working in the foster care industry, like the kids that I had seen with autism were like very severe, lower functioning, a lot of physical difficulties, nonverbal. Like it was just the most extreme. And so I was just worried that that's what life was going to look like for him. And it was just like scared of the unknown at that point. But we eventually got him signed up for ABA therapy, and he was in speech therapy. We basically just got him into everything that we could to help him succeed. And it's been just amazing to see his growth through that, even in the, just at school with his peers, just in every facet of life. He just did so well and thrived. And now he's a first grader now, and he's been able to be mainstreamed. And that when we met with the pediatrician after, he was saying, the goal is to get him all the support we possibly can, or as early as we can, and hopefully be able to mainstream him. And that was able to work out. So yeah, there's definitely been ups and downs along the way, and we're still learning. He's still learning about himself, and it's still a day-to-day thing sometimes, but it's been a great journey that's, I think, helped our whole family grow. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't remember the day that you got the diagnosis like at the office, because I'm pretty sure that you shut the door and you were alone.
Yeah,
And I get it. I totally do. I do remember though getting a phone call. I can't remember who it was that told me. All I know is it wasn't you or my brother. It wasn't you.
It's probably Dad.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
Yes. It was probably Dad, for sure. So I get the call. I am told that, you're like our nephew has autism. And so I actually do remember, I don't know if you remember though, but I called both you and Nate and I asked you guys, like, for one, I was sad for you guys because I also didn't really understand fully like what an autism diagnosis fully meant, or
Yeah.
and like when I heard that and I was like, are we all sad?
What are we doing here?
What's the move, you guys? So like I saw that most everybody was sad for you guys. I saw that you guys were sad, but I remember I called you guys because I don't know why, honestly, I really don't. I think it was just because, him, like my son and your son are the same age and they're in the same grade. I think that the first thing that came to mind was, how do you want me to treat him? Because he has autism. And when I think of autism and all the kids that we serve in the foster care industry, like I know that I definitely approach them in very different ways than I do my own children. And sometimes my kids might think I am going so gentle when they're kids, they don't understand why my approach is that way. And so I asked, I don't know if you remember this, but I asked you guys, I was like, okay, so if he does this or he's doing something naughty, or like, how do you guys want me to respond? Do you want me to respond with his diagnosis in mind, or do you want me to treat him as normal, like I would respond to any kid his age without any of these diagnoses? And so I remember that. And it's funny because you guys did tell me to just treat him normal, which is like one, a good thing. And two, if I went gentle on this kid now, knowing who he is now, because he's 7, he would have given me a run for my money and like taken advantage of me at every turn. Oh man. So what was it like as far as like what's been the biggest challenges navigating, the early days, finding all of those resources of ABA therapy and, trying to get him the supports as early as possible? Like what was the biggest challenges, and, how did you find these supports and these doctors? Were they recommended or things like that?
Well, we got a lot of recommendations. We got like a long sheet of paper from our pediatrician. And I have some family members who are also physicians. So they gave me tons of resources and like wrote notes on like highlighted who was really good and who to maybe not go with. And
That's important.
so that was super helpful because we just felt like we were thrown into the deep end. We didn't really know what that was going to look like, and I think that was, for me personally, that was a challenge because I was working full time, and I was thinking like, oh yeah, like he'll probably need. He had been in speech therapy for a couple years at that point in the early intervention, but it was like once a week or once every other week, like for 30 minutes. Like it wasn't super intensive. But with the diagnosis comes, more intensive therapy. And so I think he was in like 3 or 4 different kinds of therapy at the beginning. And when I talked with him, I was like, okay, so like time-wise, what are we looking at here? Thinking it would be like an hour a week. And they told me, oh, it'll probably be 4 hours a day. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that just kind of blew my world up just with me working and all of that. And so me and my husband talked and we were like, okay, you know what? Like, I need to take a step back. I need to be here for him. I need to work with him and give him all the support I can, like for these few years. And we talk about it all the time, but we're so happy we made that decision because that was just kind of a big hurdle for me of like, how am I going to juggle both of these things when it requires like so much of me to be there? Because the therapy was at our house.
Yeah.
He couldn't, just get dropped off somewhere or something. Like I needed to be there. So that was probably one of the hardest things for me. But once we kind of talked through that decision and once we decided that was the route we were going to go, like I felt so good about it. And luckily the therapy resources that we did go with turned out to be amazing. Like I got a shout out, Affinity Autism, specifically Grant, if you ever watch this, because he did so well. Like they just clicked so well. And I think your son came over for a couple of the sessions and they
he was
just
jealous.
like, when you find like good resources and good people and good therapists, like it can make all the difference. And I like fully credit them for helping. Just such amazing therapists with speech. He was in another kind of therapy. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. And then ABA. It just made
occupational.
Yeah.
Occupational. Yeah.
Occupational and then ABA. And it was all just, it was a lot of work for sure. Like, and I had to be involved with the sessions a lot too, especially when he was just starting out in the sessions and getting used to things and the flow. And like, they don't let them get away with anything. Like they don't let them manipulate the session or anything. So there would be days where, it would be harder days and there would be easier days, but it helped me learn a ton along the way too. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that, well, for one, having him as your first child, I think it's like different, because if he was your second child, it would probably have altered the way that you parent from the start. So how would you say having, a son that's autistic as your firstborn, how had that molded the way that you became a mother and you parented the rest of your children?
Yeah, I think it just taught me, when you think about the autism spectrum, like it really is a spectrum and every child that is on the spectrum is so different and has different challenges and, unique circumstances, unique gifts. And so it really just taught me that no matter like if my next child has autism or not, like you have to parent individually. And I think I had to work with Nate on that a little bit too. And just figuring out like, okay, we can parent him this way and this is how he'll respond best. And like where we're not gonna, trigger him to have an episode or to have a meltdown. And same with our daughter, like she is very different from our first personality wise. And so I think that was super helpful. And she's also very different from me. Like I'm very tomboy, like never owned a doll in my life. And she is the exact opposite. And so just really learning to like love them for their individuality and figuring out really like, okay, how can I best parent them? And not saying like I do great at it all the time, but I definitely have that in mind because he was my firstborn and it kind of taught me that super early on.
Yeah, that honestly is like a really great lesson. I feel like a lot of moms, for one, especially in your case, like you had this opportunity to learn how to mother in a very gentle way that is very developmentally respectful because development is different versus from him versus a peer that may not be dealing with autism. So I do want to say, as far as, having a child that is being mainstreamed, that's something that's awesome. For a child with autism, how would you say is like, are there any things that you would say are challenges of going into the school system or things like that, or even possibly, what are some of the things that you've done to advocate for his needs?
One of the interesting things that we found out at the beginning when he was first diagnosed and you're getting them into therapy, he was tested with their testing to kind of see where he was at with like social, with speech, like with a whole array of things developmentally. The one that was testing came up to me after and was like, I have never seen this before, but he scored highest in social. Like that was his highest score out of all the areas. And he's like, I've never seen that like with an autistic child. And it might be because our family's just so big and we're together all the time that he's just like he had no option but to be social and have that be normal. But I mean, he also did go through 2020 where, you know, like he wasn't in nursery and he wasn't in a lot of things that other kids, you know, would have been used to. So
yeah,
I was kind of surprised by that. But it's been cool to see that play out now that he's mainstreamed. He's he's kind of hilarious because when I pick them up from school, he'll roll down the window and be shouting at like everyone he knows across the way. And I'm like, how do you even know all of these people? But it's like so funny to see that from him. But that's the good thing is he does make friends really easily. He's super, super sweet. He's always been just super kind and loving. He's my not little, he's really big for his age, but he's my little teddy bear. And so he easily makes friends. But I think that also comes with it a lot of sensitivity. And that's a word he does not like right now.
He doesn't like being called sensitive.
Yes. And that has recently come up. And it's been a word that has come up at school with some of his friends, which I totally get. And he is a sensitive kid. And so we actually talked with him for the first time about having autism on Monday night or Sunday night. Yeah.
You told him he has autism?
Yeah. And it
wow.
Yeah, it came up because he brought up the sensitive word and he's like, "Mom, am I sensitive?" And I know he wanted me to say no. Like, but I'm like, you know, sensitive isn't a bad thing. I'm like, you are sensitive, but that's a good thing. And we talked about that and he got all mad. He's like, but you called me sensitive. I'm like, it's not a bad thing. He you know, he associates it with being a crybaby. And so, you know, Nate and I sat him down and I kind of gave Nate that look like we need to have the talk. We had been talking with each other for the last little bit and just saying like, we feel like we need to talk to him about it. Like he's getting to the age where I think he can kind of understand part of it.
Yeah.
Definitely won't be able to understand fully, but can at least be aware of like why he may react certain ways or have trouble, you know, calming down from situations. And he's been bringing up like, why am I sensitive? Like, I hate that I'm sensitive. And so we just kind of decided like, I think this is the time so that he can at least understand that there's a reason behind it and that we can be there to help him through that and that he can start to learn like more about himself and start to, you know, work on coping skills and just learning how to explore day-to-day life as a young kid. But yeah.
I love that. No, you did it exactly. I think like one of my things I want to end this on is, you know, in this, you know, there's a lot to celebrate still too, and to praise and be excited about. And, you know, tying this into that, you know, the thing that you shared with me not too long ago, like Survivor, the episode of Survivor with that girl who, you know, she opened up and shared that she had autism, you know, that affected you guys super deeply.
Yeah.
Like, I want to hear, like, one, just what is something that you love about your son because of his autism? And how do you celebrate him?
I mean, there's so many things. I love everything about him. He just cracks me up. one thing is he is never quiet. Like, he just always has to be making some, like, noise. And sometimes it drives me crazy, but I secretly love it. He is so funny and witty. Like, he'll say things to us that are just, like, years above, that I'm like, "How did you come up with that to say that? Like, you are so funny." And then what I talked about earlier, just his big heart that he has. I just like, he's exactly what I pictured, like, when I had a little boy, to just be like this gentle giant. And so I'm just so grateful that I get to be his mom and navigate this with him. And yeah, what you brought up from Survivor, there's an autistic girl that is on the show, and she was doing one of the challenges and was having a hard time, and was just kind of like getting frustrated and getting flustered throughout it, but then she was able to finish it, and her team got immunity or a reward. I can't even remember. We were busy crying at that point. But even after she had won, she just got super overwhelmed and like couldn't. She's what she had. She calls her episodes, and she just was kind of like yelling and was having a hard time like calming down and grounding herself. But she had told a former tribe mate about her autism and told him how to like help her calm down, and he was able to go do that for her. And so it was so cool to see, because she got to kind of tell her story after it was all over. And something that the pediatrician had said to us that I've kind of changed my view on was, he said, hopefully if you like get him all the support that you can and you get him mainstreamed, like he'll grow out of it. And I always thought that was like kind of a strange thing to think about, being like growing out of a diagnosis. Like, I hadn't heard that before. And with our son, if you just know him, like, you wouldn't necessarily know he was autistic. Everyone that I've told that he is, they're shocked that he is. You just would never know from the, outside looking in. But she was just able to share like this, like, you don't grow out of it. You grow with it and you learn how to navigate life with it, and it's part of who you are, and it's, nothing to be ashamed of. And so sorry, when we told him, I mean, he was kind of stuck on the sensitive word for a while. But when we told him, we showed him that video, and I think it was cool to see that even when there are good moments, like, you can still have a hard time coping with that. And that it's okay to ask for help. And it's okay to figure out like what helps you calm down, because that could be different for everybody too. And so, I mean, I don't I don't know how much he got out of it. It was just our initial conversation. I know there will be lots more discussions about it in the future, but I hope for him that seeing like a grown person that you may not necessarily know that she had it either, but that just had one of those moments that was hard to navigate, that just find your people that will help you, and that it's okay to ask for help. So yeah, it's still a learning process for all of us, but I'm so glad that we have him and that we're able to navigate it together, and it makes all of his successes and just seeing him thrive like that much sweeter. So
I love that. Thanks, Kenz, for sharing. one thing I want to end on is for any mothers that are dealing with this first-time diagnosis, or maybe they've been in the trenches for a while, they might need a voice of reason or hope. What's one thing that you want to say to them?
I mean, for our situation, I know that our son feeds a lot off of us and our energy and our tone of voice. And I can say things a certain way, and he's like, "Are you mad at me?" And I'm like, "No, like I didn't mean it that way." And so I think taking care of yourself is super important. An autism diagnosis can be a lot, and it's a lot to navigate with your child, and it's a lot to navigate with yourself. And so I think if you can take care of you, like, you're going to be in the best scenario, in the best situation to take care of them, and just to trust your instincts. I think you will always know what's best for your child. You know them best. You know them better than anyone else, any expert. And so really just listen to that mommy intuition and go with it and just love them. That's the biggest thing, is just show them all the love that you can. Yeah.
Thanks, Kenz. I have loved having you here. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.